good evening. So we're calling to order the January 10th, 2019 HEDRA Commission meeting. We have a quorum here. The first item on the agenda is to review the minutes from the December 13th meeting. And if everyone's had a chance to review that, we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes or have a discussion on that matter.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. There's no one to oppose that. So the second item is the bills, and I think Mr. Henson can take care of that issue.
Sure. Looking at the bills we have in the packet from December, nothing too sizable on there. Annual membership renewals and some conference expenses is what makes up the bills. So I can stand for any questions.
I'd move for approval of the bills.
I'll second.
Any discussion about this? Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Approval of the bills has been carried. All right, so as a matter of business, we have the election and appointment of officers up next.
Sure. And I can give an explanation of what we're looking at here tonight. We have 3 officers for HEDRA. We have the president, vice president, and treasurer. Those 3 positions are to be elected from the citizen commissioners that are part of HEDRA. So the council appointees would not be eligible to serve in those positions. And so we have those. Those can either be done as a block or they can be done individually by a motion and second. And then we also have the appointments of myself, John Hinsman, as secretary. That would be until we have the economic development coordinator position filled. And then the appointment of Melanie Lammers, our finance manager, as the assistant treasurer, and the designation of Dan Flegel, our city attorney, and Andrea McDowell-Paler as our legal counsel. So I can stand for any questions or nominations. Thank you.
I would just move that the city employees be nominated and slated as such and voted upon by separate motion as indicated on the business agenda.
I would second that all city staff be renewed as presented.
So we have a motion to approve the city appointees as slated. Is there any discussion on that? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And then I believe we can take a vote on the actual appointment. So all those in favor of the appointment as slated.
And just a clarification on that too, with the president, vice president, and treasurer, there would need to be a nomination and a second for those positions, either as a block or separately.
And that would be, I was just stating that to be separately. We're just.
Oh,
just
I'm
making
sorry.
We're approving the city appointments as slated.
Got it.
That we're separating it. The first motion was to separate that, and that we are approving.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Understood. Thank you.
No problem. Any other discussion on that? So I believe the motion before us is to approve the city appointees as slated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Now, as to the citizen commissioners in the president, vice president, treasurer positions, I think we've had a kind of a system of doing that before, but if we can have some discussion on that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, I should state that the current officers, the presidency is vacant with Pam Denning's departure. Scott Sinclair is the vice president, and we have the treasurer as our acting president, Martha.
So nominations for the current positions.
Madam Chair, I'll make a nomination. I'll do all three in a row here. I nominate Scott Sinclair as the president, Martha Sullivan as the vice president, and Dennis Piney as the treasurer.
Do we need a second? I'll second it.
Do we have any further nominations as far as the vacancy and/or the supplemental positions are concerned? Not hearing any, we'll move forward with the current slate, and I will propose it for a motion for vote.
I make the motion to approve the slate as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any further discussion? Thank you, motion carries. Okay, next up on the business agenda, we have a resolution for authorization of banking signatories.
Sure, this is a routine resolution that we have, just putting the president, treasurer, and assistant treasurer and secretary as signatories for all banking transactions. So I can stand for any questions.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Is there any other comment on that as to why we would need to have that motion approved by the commissioners at this time?
At this point, our financial advisors have suggested that we have a resolution in place that shows those signatories from a reporting standpoint.
Okay.
Then I would make the motion to adapt Resolution 219-1, authorizing the president, treasurer, assistant treasurer, and secretary as signatories as presented for the banking transactions.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. So next up, we have the third quarter financial report. Mr. Henson.
Thank you. Our finance manager has submitted the third quarter 2018 HEDRA financial report. These are for activities up to September 30th of 2018. I've put a couple of highlighted bullet points in your packet. Everything looks pretty secure, that what we have, pretty routine. We haven't received some of the rental income yet that we have for industrial park property. That would come later on in 2018. We've had some higher than anticipated loan payoffs. The Hudson information, when you look from a year to year, we had a lot more miscellaneous income that was involved with grant transfers and other things in the past. And then we did have that bump towards the beginning of the year for the heat while we were still owners of the project. So those things have been eliminated as time's gone on. Our personnel expenses are lower due to our job opening for the economic development coordinator. So in discussions with the finance manager on any obstacles or any things to be concerned about, she didn't make anything of note. So I present this for your information. It can stand for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the commissioners? Okay. A motion to approve the financial report and accept it.
Also move.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then lastly, on the business matters, we have authorization for a budget amendment on the Riverfront District transfer. Mr. Hinsman.
Thank you. Within your packet, we did add another item sent earlier this week relating to a budget amendment for 2018. It's the authorization of a transfer of $2,105 from the Riverfront TIF District. The reason behind this is the district itself was decertified in October of 2016. However, we continue to report on the district each year because there's an outstanding interfund loan in that amount, $2,105. So this is money that was spent above the tax increment collections. So until that loan is fulfilled, we have to report in perpetuity on it. So our finance department has asked that we repay that loan from the fund balance so that we no longer have that reporting requirement. So the action we have before you tonight is the budget amendment of $2,105 from the fund balance of HEDRA to the TIF balance for the Riverfront District. and I can stand for any questions.
Mr. Vaughn?
Then that would, John, that would be it then, right? Once we do this transfer, we wouldn't have to do this transfer again, right?
Correct, yeah, that would take care of any outstanding obligations from the Riverfront TIF district, so it would be effectively done at that point.
I'd make a motion to approve then.
Thank you. Is there a second? Other questions?
I'll make the second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. So authorization for the budget amendment is approved. And we will move on to reports and information.
Sure.
First being the HEDRA workshop scheduled on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, a sweetheart of a deal, huh? So February 14th, I had in the packet for a HEDRA meeting to conduct a workshop to look over our strategic plan. And I first wanted to find out the availability of some of the HEDRA members for that date. I've already found that there's one individual that would not be able to make the meeting. I think it's important for us all to be present, so I might be looking at some other dates later on in February. Ron, would a later February date on a Thursday, might that be an option? The 20th, okay. What I will do, Commissioners, is I will send out some dates for that, and we'll see what happens towards the beginning of February. If there's not a lot of action items for that meeting, we would substitute the workshop meeting for the regular meeting on that, but I'll do that.
And I have a question on this too.
Mhm.
Is there a possibility that we could have this early in the morning on a particular day if it's, only because those of us who are serving on other boards, it might be complicated in terms of rescheduling and/or just having the additional time to be able to provide for that project.
Sure. I'm open to early morning meetings. I'm not sure what the other commissioners' time would allow.
What's the time that you're anticipating this might take?
I'm thinking no more than 2 hours.
Okay. Tuesdays and Fridays are suspect for me if we're gonna do it in the morning. Otherwise, any morning is fine.
Okay.
Mornings work for me, I just need to know in advance.
Same.
Okay. All right, so what I'll do is I'll send out a few dates and times with some preference towards the mornings at this point. And I'm assuming like a 7 to 9 a.m. time period in my mind. Okay, and then I'll put 1 or 2 evenings on there too, just to mix it around. And we will come to a date and look forward to doing that. As a reminder, we did have a strategic plan that we looked at last year. We made some revisions in the fall. We want to make sure that we're checking in on that to see how things are progressing, as well as to make sure that these are the priorities that we have moving forward on that and what other priorities there might be. So prior to the meeting, I'll be sending out the information that we had and some updates of where we're at with the existing strategic plan so that we could think a little bit more about how we're sitting and what our other options would be going into 2019. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huntsman. Okay, next up on reports, and you can just take.
Okay,
us through the
I'll
reports. I don't
I'll
need to
take,
announce
no
everything.
worries at all. I'll go through that. The next thing I have is Great River Landing. A couple of updates on that. I think as everyone can see, the parking ramp is taking great shape on that project, which is wonderful to see. The parking ramp itself is still scheduled for opening up early in 2019, and the 121 spaces that are available there would be available for the most part to the public. So that's a wonderful deal that we have. As far as the main building goes, the building plans were submitted. They're being reviewed as we speak. I've been speaking with the building official, and he anticipates having the comments back to the developer by the end of the week here. And so I don't see anything at this point within the building plans that are not out of the ordinary or any hiccups that might occur there. So in speaking with the developer, it sounds like they would be starting the project and gearing up for construction there in the February-March timeframe. So that would be construction and the renovation of the building itself. So looking forward to that taking place here. And then moving on to Panache Cidery. Yes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see a hand.
I just threw it up there.
Okay.
I wanted to be sure that you were all done. I'm getting feedback from individuals in the community about the removal of the trees along the trail between Lock and Dam Road and the bridge. And to basically let everyone know that I think something is going to happen where there's going to be a request or a resolution from a commission or commissions to save those trees and not remove them. The developer, I know, when we took a tour last year, at some point, had talked about the obstruction of the view of the river and the bridge and so forth with the trees, and wanted to take them out. And it's gone so far that there are people who are looking at state statutes, federal statutes regarding removal of greenery along the river. So I'm not sure, I guess, is this something that the building inspection department is looking at, or is it beyond their purview or not within their purview to make comments about that?
Sure. Did you want to say something, Mike?
I just want to confirm, I think we approved the landscaping plan already
We did.
for
Which
that,
we did.
which had the removal of trees, but the developer was planting new trees in replacement of them.
Right, and
Okay.
that's when it all came up. Article in the paper about the removal of the trees, and holy cow. I know that the trail is supposed to be widened. And I'm not sure which way the trail would be widened, toward the river or toward the building itself. But I'm not looking for direction here. I'm just saying that something is probably going to happen, either from HPC or Parks or both, regarding this. And there may even be a citizen group that may come forward. I don't know if they would, if we would accept testimony from them, or if it's something that would have to go to the council. Because the council did approve it, could an amendment be made? But just kind of a heads up, this is probably going to happen. Regarding that then, excuse me, do we know, are they going to concentrate on the building itself first? Are they going to be doing some things outside at the same time? Do we have any order yet in terms of how that's all going to transpire?
Sure. With the building permit submitted, it's the shell permit for the building, so they'll be working primarily at shoring up the building itself. I would think the roof, windows, exterior of the building, that would be the first steps of it. The landscaping, the grading on site would be one of the latter stages of the project itself. They'll be concentrating on the interior of the building with stuff that they can do through beginning in the winter, then work outside from there. In regard to the trees itself, as Commissioner Vaughn had stated, we did approve the landscape plan along with the tree removal plan as part of the landscape plan approvals back in December there. So that's where that came from. With the tree removals, we do have a tree preservation policy, which requires replacement of trees based upon the size of trees that are removed. And so they did comply with that, and they did need to put in additional tree plantings to suffice for those trees removed up and beyond the landscaping that they would normally have to provide on that one. The rationale for the tree removal, I know that's been an issue of conversation for quite some time. It kind of comes down to a couple of different items. Number one, the trail that goes through there right now, I would like to widen that, and the only direction we could widen that trail would really be towards the south and not towards the river. We get in very close to the riprap there, and there's concern of people traveling, especially on bicycles, and going off the trail with little threshold on that side of it. When you take a look at the trail situation right now, there's a large portion of it that has kind of a poured concrete slab, for lack of a better words, that's right next to the trees. So any widening of that would tear into the concrete slab, and hence really close to the trees themselves, that those would be disrupted with the addition of that. When we took a look at the trees themselves, when those were planted originally, they were planted as a buffer between the industrial building that was there, that we removed, and the trail itself, so that we could shield that industrial building from the site. In taking a look at the site itself and the parkland that's being developed there, I don't think that we wanted to shield the parkland from the river. We wanted to open up the site and extend the parkland to the river, and that led to the tree removals that were there.
Well, I'm not sure how much you get into discussions anymore with the developer. The one thing I'd suggest out of all this conversation would be for you to talk to the developer and make sure that they have in their plan what is legally possible to do, which is primarily removing the trees. If there are some federal or state statutes that need to be adhered to, they probably should investigate that before they start doing anything. Judging by what you're saying in terms of the progress of the whole project, it looks, and it stands to reason, usually after everything is done with the building, that's when they start to go in and start to work on the outside. So my assumption is that June, July, the heart of the summer is when, into the fall, that's when they'll be doing that landscaping work. So we've got some time here for whoever wants to make their case, and we've got some time here for the developer to make sure that they're doing what is legally possible to do.
Okay.
Mr. Toppin, did you have a comment? I'll just make one quick statement. I think it would behoove the commission as well as developer to just make a preemptive sort of statement as to what policies have been adhered to already in terms of both environmental legislation, the city policies, et cetera, what's been approved already, in response to any citizen concerns, that it's going to be committed to environmental legislation that's in existence. So
Sure.
Just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this issue?
Okay.
So,
I'll move on to the next item we have, the Panache Cidery site. In December, we did get authorization to sign the real estate option agreement. We have signed that, so that is executed and in place. We have an exclusive period of time until June of 2019 to work with Panache to come together with a purchase and development agreement. So I have had subsequent meetings with them. We will be working on the purchase price and bringing back further information here in the coming months, hopefully that we can strike a deal with the purchase and development agreement. I think the key issue in that obviously is the price of the property and what that might be, and I want to make sure that we're in a position that HEDRA is comfortable with the price before we get too far into the purchase and development agreement itself. So there'll be more to come on that issue.
any questions? Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to Economic Development Coordinator, we are out for our third time right now, and I hope it's the charm, because the last couple of weeks we've received some good applications. So I'm very hopeful of the batch that we have now. The application deadline is this Sunday, and we're going to be interviewing, I think, the last week in January for the position. So hopefully we could have someone in by the March meeting. That'd be great. So we've had some good candidates. If more are out there, we would welcome to see those as well. But I'm feeling much more confident this time than I have the last two with the candidate pool we have. So hopefully soon.
Great. Any questions on that?
Yeah, thank you. Refresh my memory, did we set a date for HEDRA members to interview candidates or not? I thought I had seen something.
We
but-
did, yeah. Two different items here, because we have the Economic Development Coordinator Morgan's position, the staff position, and then we also have the HEDRA vacancy coming up as well. And with the HEDRA vacancy, we'll have 5 candidates that we're interviewing this Monday, January 14th, and I believe Joe and Mark are a part of that, along with Scott.
That's the 5 PM meeting on Monday?
That's the 5 PM meeting on Monday, so.
Okay.
With Commissioners Balsonic and Vaughn being council members on that, as well as Commissioner Sinclair being the president of the commission. So we will have those interviews, 5 people on Monday, and our intention is to bring that forward to the council for appointment on the 22nd of January, so they would be available by February. So we'll have that one.
Okay, thank you.
And with commercial vacancies, really not much has changed at this point. I did notice that local corners down at the Art Space Hastings Loft has been closed, and the Riverwalk Arts Studio has opened up in that space. I think there was a story on that in the Hastings Star-Gazette a couple of weeks ago as well. So we have that, and that's all that I have for reports and presentations.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Vaughn?
Thank you. John, I have 2 questions about some developments we've been working on. The development over by Walgreens, have we heard any more on that potential, or where that's at?
Sure. On the development by Walgreens, we had a purchase, we sold the property to a firm looking to build a Caribou Einstein coffee bagel place there. That moves slowly forward. We've had, the site plans were set to go to Planning Commission, I think, in October of 2018. And some of the access that was necessary for the site, we thought was in a position to be granted by MnDOT and was not. So we pulled it back at that time. We continue to work with Walgreens for a cross-access easement. We've had some communication with their attorneys, and we're hopeful that we can get that resolved. The developer's still intent on making something happen on that one. They're just looking for that guaranteed access to the Highway 5561 light there. So that one continues to go.
Thank you. And the other one is on the Target building. From my understanding, Target still owns it, and do we get any reports from them, from their realtor? Is there any interest in the building yet, or is it, if so, or if there's not, what is it zoned today? And is the whole piece of property zoned one big R, whatever?
Sure. With the building itself, yes, the building's still owned by Target. It's being marketed privately for sale or for lease. We're in conversation with them usually once or twice a month. I have not talked to them since the beginning of the year, but I've also been speaking with other people during various times that have interests in the building as well. The property is zoned right now commercial. It's zoned C4, which is our shopping center zoning district. It allows primarily for commercial uses, a wide variety of commercial uses in there. Could it be zoned something else? Perhaps. It would need to go through a rezoning process to do that. You know, when people have taken a look at that site, they've looked at that in a couple of different ways from people I've spoken to. Is there a reuse of the building? You know, it's a 130,000 square foot building, I believe. Having a single user for a site that big in today's market is pretty difficult. Could the building be broken up into smaller users? Possibly. Could the building be partially torn down? It's very deep right now. Could it be torn down maybe halfway to have smaller bays that would better fit the retail model of other retailers? That's been discussed. Or might it be by cleared altogether and either a smaller commercial and or mixed residential commercial development take place? So various options that have been discussed by people that have looked at the site and have met with us.
And then one follow-up with that, when we talk about rezoning, on the council, we got caught a little bit of, we want to sell this piece of property if the council rezones it to this. Is this property going to be in that same situation as, we got it sold, but we really need you to rezone it on behalf, so it kind of puts it on our council's table or HEDRA's table of rezoning that. And I'm a little concerned about, do we have to zone in front of it, or do we have to be reactive to whoever comes into the place saying, hey, I'd like to make it a housing development, can you rezone it to residential? And then we're gonna say yes or no to that. That's my concern.
Yeah, I would imagine And again, with the property itself, it's privately owned by Target, so, you know, we don't have an official role within it from an ownership or development standpoint. Would we be in the position of providing some assistance one way or the other for a project? You know, that's something that could be discussed in the future. But to your question of if a change in the land use was proposed, how might that be taken care of? What I would think is that any purchaser of that building who has those questions would enter into some sort of purchase and development agreement with Target contingent upon these changes taking place, and that we'd have a period of time in which we could consider, make those changes, and then the transfer could take place.
That's all. Thank you.
Question?
Yes, thank you. Is the property for sale, or is it for lease, or is the option, you know, available to whoever comes in? And if it is for sale, what's the asking price?
Sure. It is for sale and it is for lease right now. I'd have to look at the asking price again in case it has changed in the last couple of months, but I think it was in the 3 to 4 million range at that point.
Okay. I've had some community members ask me about what the possibility would be to turn that into a community center. You know, for kids, adults, putting some indoor recreation type things, bowling alley, so on and so forth. It does sound exciting, but the purchase price kind of makes me wince a little bit.
Sure.
If that is indeed what they're asking for it. But 134,000 square feet, you could do a lot in there with some things. Yeah. And I don't know if any other community around, Commissioner Vaughn, you may know, if any communities have this kind of a community center that is city-owned and is used by the citizens in town. Is this something that's kind of rare or feasible or whatever?
First of all, no, as cities do it, but it's also a very expensive piece of property, and then it's not, I think I work for a city, it's also, you have to maintain it, you have to operate it after that, so budget-wise, it's an expensive investment, but it has been done all over the place, sure.
Right. I mean, you know, we have a YMCA. We've got our school buildings available for some recreational types of things and so on. So I would think it would have to really be something unique to, you know, to grab any kind of attention, I guess, on my part, on that indoor wave, indoor snow slide or something like that. I don't know, pie in the sky. I'm not advocating it, word to the public, but I have had people that have approached me and said, gee, you know, could this be a community center? But again, $3 million is what it would cost just to buy the property, and then heaven only knows what it would cost to equip it, staff it, and so forth. It would be a huge, huge undertaking for something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bolsonic. I'll just make one comment on that, and I'm painfully aware that the city is in need of housing, particularly townhomes and transitional housing for our older folks who want to be out of their family homes, and we need to make that available for our up-and-coming families. We need to take a look at and maybe market with our new push through the city and the Chamber of Commerce, just the new complexes that are being developed in Apple Valley, Eagan, et cetera, that have a combination of commercial and, I mean, look at Bloomington. There's a combination of commercial and housing. If we're gonna attract people from the cities, so to speak, or like up-and-coming professionals to live here, it's something that we could join forces on and market it accordingly. Just spaces like that, because I know we have a lot of commercial vacancies, so just keep that in the back of your mind, and when you talk to folks, get feedback on that, so.
Yes, to follow up on that, I think of what's happening in Cottage Grove there at Grange and Hadley, right off of 61, that 80th Grange 61 exit. And there is quite a complex going up there for senior, well, I don't know if it's just senior housing, but they do have, you know, indoor parking and so on and so forth, and they also have some commercial in that area as well. That would be exciting to see something like that come in. Yes, I totally agree with you. Being a senior citizen, seasoned citizen, someday my wife and I will be looking for something that is less in terms of maintenance and so forth. And matter of fact, I was just talking to a person today at the Cub supermarket. I sound like our former mayor. You can't go to the supermarket without getting caught in a conversation. And that person is, you know, they've got some health issues. They have a house. They're looking for something. They had found that there was something for sale in a townhome, but it sold so quickly, and now they don't know what to do. You know, they're looking. So it's really palatable, I would think, for a developer to come in and, you know, say, let's do something in terms of that particular kind of housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this issue?
Nope, that's all I had.
Follow-up? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That reaches the end of our agenda this evening. If there's no other comments or questions, business tonight, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
In favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.